He's Tony. I'm Mike. This is week 15. The finals of the Action Bowl!
So here it is, the final event, the Action Bowl itself. We've got Jean-Claude Van Damme going up against Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mike, who would you like to draw for?
There's no drawing.
There's no drawing. There is no drawing because
there's no drawing.
There's only one film left in the bowl. So I'm just going to let you
Just dump it in there. There we go.
pull Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And it should be no surprise, it is Conan. This movie is another masterpiece.
Yes, I'm just gonna throw this out to you right now. This is actually one of my favorite films of all time. So this is going to be damn interesting. So what's Jean-Claude got left in the jar?
If I remember correctly, it starts with the B.
It does start with the B.
And ends with Ort.
It is Bloodsport.
Now, this is my favorite Van Damme movie. This is what got me into Van Damme to begin with.
So, understandably.
And into that whole schlocky thing. There are so many great fight scenes in this, so many shots to the nuts, so many kicks to the face. I mean, it's glorious.
Yeah, had you seen Cyborg before you saw this, or was this like legitimately your introduction to
Oh my
Van
God,
Damme?
you're right. I did see Cyborg before this, but not by much.
Yeah.
Not by much. And for my money, Cyborg is nowhere near as fun or as entertaining as Bloodsport.
So,
but
stay tuned. Our commentary, our scoring coming up next. Here we go. Week 15 of the Action Bowl. This is it. This is the big one. Our final matchup, Arnold Schwarzenegger against Jean-Claude Van Damme. We are going to do something a little bit different this time. We are actually going to wait until the very end of the episode to reveal our scores for both of these movies. So who do we want to talk about first?
Let's do Arnold.
Let's do Arnold. I got to be honest. I unapologetically love this movie.
As you should.
And
As you should.
This is, okay, first off, I miss John Milius.
Agreed. Conan.
I miss his directing style. I miss his no given, balls to the wall.
Yes.
If you can't eat it or it, kill it. And then that is like everything about this movie.
Yes.
This is absolutely my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, bar none. Period! Exclamation point.
It teeters for me. It flip-flops between this and Predator.
Yeah.
Because I really love me some Predator.
So,
as you guys know.
But this movie is it's so accomplished. It works on a straight narrative level. It works on a metaphoric level. There's themes that work throughout the entire thing. I know that there are purists out there that are like, well, it doesn't follow the source material exactly. It's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Does not matter because
this is coming from a guy that source material for you is the fucking Bible, the fucking gospel. If it doesn't follow source material, well, you.
Yeah,
You're that man.
Absolutely, I really am.
That speaks volumes.
But and I will also tell you this: I was a Conan fan before I was a fan of this film because I used to actually read it back in the day, Savage Sword of Conan, and it was one of those like if my parents ever actually bothered to look at what I was reading, they probably would have been really upset with some of the content that's in it because it was straight up, it was bloody, it was vulgar, there was nude chicks and everything, and it was magnificent, and I still have my collection, and both of my sons will verify that yes, I still have all those going all the way back to the days when Joe Jusko used to paint the covers. And I'm going to say that even though this does deviate from the source material, it still works. And everything about it works. The subtle changes that they made to the character work. And the action sequences, every action sequence in this film is incredible. Every fight sequence is bloody and messy, and you feel it.
Oh, yeah, you do.
And
it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
I was going to say, like, there's Excalibur, there's Lord of the Rings, and there's Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Period.
And that's kind of what I was going to get to is like, you know, up until this point, or I should say, this for me, this is the last great epic up until the Fellowship of the Ring. And I'm only including the Fellowship of the Ring because I really don't, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the other two Lord of the Rings films, but Fellowship for me is, it doesn't get wrapped up in all the CGI bullshit, big battles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's more pure. In that sense, like this is, there's not like a whole lot of in-camera, you know, or I shouldn't say in-camera, but like CGI anything or special effects anything, short of the giant snakes in it.
Those were practical. Those were practical.
Right.
Effects.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not CGI. It's,
exactly.
It's a real. It's actually there for the actors to interact with. It's not something that was added in post-production. Because John Milius hated post-production work. He hated special effects. He wanted something there that was practical, that was in camera, that the actors could actually respond to and actually see it on the day they were shooting. And that's something else. This was not a cheap film back in the day. This was 1982. It was a $20 million film. So it was a big money film by that standard.
Now, while that is true, Ben-Hur, which came out in 1959, was $15 million.
Yeah.
So that's one of the last great epics up until about this point.
Yeah.
So $5 extra million in that 20-year span isn't a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, no, but I know
So,
that,
I mean, yes, it is big budget, but it's not like shoot for the moon, you know, budget.
It's not big studio budget like it was back in the day. No, I get that, but this is also the movie that saved Dino De Laurentiis from going bankrupt for a while. And the irony of it is that the guy that helped develop this film, the guy that actually like initially bought the rights and started the whole pre-production process of the film, he was the one that wound up making the most money off of it because he sold his rights to Dino De Laurentiis because he could not secure financing to make the film that he wanted to make. And the original draft of the film was done by Oliver Stone, and then John Milius was signed on, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to rewrite the shit out of this."
Yeah, those two are definitely polar opposites in their views. You know, where Oliver Stone is very liberal, John Milius is very like, "Fuck you, guns," and like you said, if you can't kill it, I'm sorry.
If you can't eat it or bang it, kill it.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know what to say. There's only one scene in this film that I think of that is actually done with like any kind of blue screen. It's the very beginning conversation that he's having with his father. And then other than that, everything else is in camera. And when you really stop and look at just how rich and deep the world that they built for this film is, it's insane how much detail was paid to this. So people might try to write off John Milius as like, oh, yeah. But he is an accomplished director. He knows how to shoot action. He knows.
Yeah, he does.
He knew exactly what he had when he made this film. Because let's be honest, Arnold Schwarzenegger had done Raw Deal, and Raw Deal is a terrible movie by every stretch of the imagination. But he took Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he knew that he couldn't act. So what did he do? He got a really solid supporting cast.
Why do you cry?
He is Conan, Samaritan. He won't cry. So I cry for him.
And then he got a soundtrack that was so good that it acted for Arnold Schwarzenegger. So
You're absolutely right. No, I will not deny that. Yeah, the score is fantastic. The cinematography is freaking incredible. The cast is amazing. I mean, casting James Earl Jones as the big bad in this, I mean, that's a bold ass shit.
it was. This was a time when James Earl Jones had not made his big comeback yet, so he was kind of on the skids. He was doing a lot of B flicks. So for him to show up as Thulsa Doom, this kind of helped reinvigorate his career because it showed that he had some chops. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, this is the best big bad that we have had in all of the Action Bowl films.
Infidel defilers. They should all drown in lakes of blood. Now they will know why they are afraid of the dark.
I cannot think of anyone that we've watched for this season that did it better.
No.
And then he's got two henchmen that look like they could tear your ass up 5 ways to Sunday. So
Yeah, and only James Earl Jones could deliver those monologues that he delivers and deliver them convincingly. You know, I mean, he charms your fucking ass. He is literally a fucking snake charmer.
Yes,
and it's just he just sells the fuck out of it.
What will your world be without me? My son.
The other thing is the riddle of steel.
yes.
I wanted to kind of talk about because I've seen like a lot of videos, you know, video essays like, well, what's the riddle of steel? And for me, it's like they kind of tell you to point blank. I mean, you got two interpretations in the movie. You got, you know, his dad's interpretation, which is
No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Yes.
and James Earl Jones is like,
Steel isn't strong, boy. Flesh is stronger.
well, that's great and all, but without somebody to wield that tool, it don't mean a fucking thing. And in both cases, they're kind of right.
Yeah.
And that's really the long and short of the real steel for me.
I see. I always interpreted it as that Arnold's father, Conan's father, told him, "You must find the riddle of steel. You must learn the riddle of steel. You must learn its mystery. You must learn its discipline." James Earl Jones actually delivered. He actually told him, "This is the riddle of steel. That you know what, you can have the sharpest sword, but in the wrong hands, who cares?"
Yeah.
You know, and in the right hands, with the right person wielding that weapon, it is infinitely powerful. But steel is not strong. Flesh is stronger. And even though it's a weapon that's designed to cut flesh, it also explains his motivation as to why he gave up pursuing steel. Because at the end of the day, that's what actually wiped out Conan's village. The other thing, this is something that I don't know if you catch this. I don't know if a lot of people catch this, but there's the whole thing where the beginning of the movie is about the sword that his father is crafting. And at the end of the movie, Thorgrim, I think it's Thorgrim, has his father's sword, and Arnold
sword?
duels him, the sword with the skull, and Arnold duels him, and the sword breaks. And when that sword breaks, the whole thing kind of is coming to an end on that. Thulsa Doom's power has been spent. It's lost at that particular point. But the best part of it, and this is one of those fine details, is that when Conan sneaks into Thulsa Doom's mountain of power, he beheads him using his father's sword. And I've always loved that detail. He has this beautiful Atlantean sword that he's just killing everybody with. But when it came to that vendetta, Daddy's metal was what was going to get the job done. So I unashamedly love this movie. I have loved this movie for the entirety of the time that I've been able to watch this film. This movie came out when I was 11. I've been watching this movie most of my life. 1982.
Okay.
So,
All right. So I was 7.
So and thank you for cable TV. So, but
Absolutely. Yeah, this movie's got everything. It's got, you know, it's got fights, it's got boobies, it's got epic battles.
great monologues.
Great monologues. Interesting characters, each one unique.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just, you can't go wrong with this film. You just can't. I mean, you really can't. I mean, you can nitpick anything to death, but I
Sure.
mean, there's no like blatant flaws to it at all by any stretch of the imagination. I
Other
mean, it's
than
just-
some sketchy performances, I'm just
mean,
going to say, and
yeah.
I'm throwing that out there right now. But the fact of the matter is that this film is not about the acting. If you think it is, you've missed the point of the film. But the other thing is that taken as a whole. Don't pick it apart. You can take any one of these components and blah, 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 but you take this movie as the whole. It is absolutely what I love going to the movies for.
Yes.
It looks
Yes.
great. It sounds great. It's engaging. It's entertaining. You cheer. You laugh. You are like, you know, dumbstruck by some of the shit that you see on screen. And I unashamedly love this. I don't know what else to say about it.
I will say this. One thing that gets overlooked is the subtle humor that's peppered throughout this movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it is peppered quite a bit. Like when Conan meets the archer for the first time. Subutai.
I am Harkinian, the great order of Kurlet.
So what are you doing here?
Dinner for wolves.
Or when they're getting ready for the big battle and the wizard's like,
The gods are pleased with you. They will watch the battle.
Are they going to help?
No.
Well then, tell them to stay out of the way.
all sorts of little things like that all throughout.
Now, I will say, I bought this movie on Blu-ray, and then there's a streaming version of it, and there was a scene in there that I had not seen prior to this. I'm assuming this was something that was cut back into it, and it's a conversation between Conan and Subutai as they're preparing for the battle on the mountains towards the end of the film. And they're actually talking about, he's remembering like how he used to walk through the woods with his father and the leaves were so dark and you could smell spring coming. And in this particular instance, he says that, you know, they both long for spring, but spring is never going to come back for them. And it's a great little...
I've never seen that.
I will send you that clip. I will throw as much of it as I can right here.
Have you ever felt such a wind?
They blow where I live, too. In the north of every man's heart.
It's never too late, Subutai.
No. It would only lead me back here another day.
I had never seen it either. I thought it was a stunning, you know, actual little bit of character development that they did in there. It's like, especially that deep into the film when Subutai and Conan have been running around for all these days now in the course of the film. But it actually enriched the film. It was something I had never actually seen before. So I don't know what version of the film this is, but I absolutely enjoyed that. So it looks like I'm going to be buying Conan on Blu-ray again.
Well, I want to say this is, you know, we don't say this too often, you know, during the Action Bowl, but we always do for our actual movie reviews. For me, this is an absolute rent. This is an absolute buy. And if you haven't gave this movie a shot, you need to watch it and enjoy it.
That's the highest praise that any movie can get. Mike has a collection of about 20 movies. I have about 700. So, he's picky. He only buys movies he knows he's going to rewatch over and over again.
This is true. Yeah.
So, all right, we will be back in just a few minutes to talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme. Stay tuned. Our second finalist, Jean-Claude Van Damme, brings the goods with his movie selection, Bloodsport. And
this is my favorite Van Damme movie. This is what got me into Van Damme. Don't get me. I saw Cyborg first, and Cyborg kind of left me kind of like meh. Saw this movie, holy freaking shit! I was in. I was sold. This movie is so much fun. And granted, it's presented as based on true events. Years later, you come to find out this is some bullshit. Bullshit aside, it's a fun, engaging story.
You're absolutely correct. The fact that Frank Dukes was so full of shit makes this movie better.
It actually elevates the movie.
because they took all of his bullshit fairy tales and they actually turned it into a believable, coherent, relatable story.
And my God, it works so well.
and this is post The Karate Kid. They actually, and see, here's the other thing too. This movie came out in what, 87?
87.
87. So here we are, all these years later. MMA is now a thing because it wasn't back then. And this film still holds up, and you can see the real thing. You can hop on any channel on YouTube and go watch real MMA fights. And yet this film, in spite of the reality of it, still engaging, still entertaining, and the fights still look brutal.
Oh, dude, they're brutal. They look great. And the other great thing, too, is like most of the fighters in there are very distinct and have their own unique style.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy the diversity that they got, and detail they put into this movie when it comes to the fights and the fight choreography is fucking amazing. To me, this is the best like fight style tournament movie, period. There's nothing better.
That's why they call this thing Bloodsport, kid.
For me, it's even better than Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce Lee, but there's like, what, maybe a handful of fights in that movie?
Four or five, yeah. So.
And it's advertising itself as like, I mean,
Well,
as
at
a
the
fight
time,
movie.
it was a decade and change earlier than this,
Yeah.
so
Well,
there's that. But
And the problem with that movie is it gets too bogged down in its own spy bullshit and
Yes.
subplot.
Yeah.
This has subplots, but they're there to kind of help, well, let's just say help move the fights, but it gives a little something besides just them fighting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't get in, but it doesn't get in the way of the
Yeah.
fights either. In a lot of cases, there's more fights because of the B plots.
Yes.
Or some interesting, chase scenes and things like that.
Yeah, no. It breaks up the action just enough to where it doesn't become monotonous.
Yes.
It spices up the characters a bit
Yes.
because there's more going on than he's just showing up to win.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely that from a storytelling standpoint, this movie works brilliantly, even though Jean-Claude Van Damme was no great actor at this point in his career.
I'm going to Hong Kong
You're sure you want to do this?
to honor you. Means everything to me.
And he actually never, neither of our competitors here are great actors. Neither of them are going to win an Academy Award anytime soon. But that being said, he was the right guy in the right
Yes.
role at the right time, and he gave it the right amount of oomph. And at the end of it, you have a great villain as well.
Oh, Chun-Li is one of the best big bads
Yes.
ever. I mean,
And he was in Enter the Dragon.
yes,
So-
yes, he was. Yes, he was. But man, he is just fucking vicious.
Yes.
And he enjoys the viciousness,
Yes.
the brutality and shit that he's doing. He's not doing it for honor or any of that shit. No, he's doing it 100% for the fucking glory.
Yes, he's a brawler. He enjoys the violence of it. He wants to know that he is the baddest guy on the block. He wants to know that he's the biggest bad in the room. And if that means that he has to kill a competitor in a gold lame pair of kung fu pants, then that's what's going to happen. Even if they all turn their back on him, he don't
give a
care. He's Chong Li.
Yeah,
People were
dude.
chanting his name. And at the end of the day, just like Rocky, if they're chanting your name, you're doing something right. So.
Attention whore was the word I was looking for earlier.
They
Total
did not
attention whore.
pay to see how honorable you were. They paid to see you whoop someone's ass. And Chong Li delivers. But then again, so does Frank Dux. So I'm sorry,
he does.
Dukes, as in
Put up
your
your
dukes. but we forgot to talk about nerds.
See? Not a scratch on it.
Ogre
Dude.
is all over this movie.
And Ogre and it's sad, but he's probably the best actor in this fucking movie. He comes across natural. You believe, I don't think there's much difference between the character Jackson and Mr. Gibbs. I forgot what his first name is, but I think it's something Gibbs.
Barry
Put it
Gibbs.
right.
Yeah.
Put it
so-
I just want to be your everything. Sorry. Channeling my inner Gib.
I go with it. Just you fly that free flag, man. So,
But it's funny, but yeah, I mean, it just comes across so natural. I believe that is him. That's truly him. That's not a character. That is.
they cast him because he just fit the role and he just had to deliver who he was on that one.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that also has Forrest Whitaker in a very early role in his career.
His name is Frank Dukes.
We have reason to believe Frank is here in Hong Kong. His name was on a list on a flight from San Francisco 2 days ago.
Who did go on to win an Academy Award, so there's that. And it's odd that he got his start in such kind of I don't want to say low rent, but low key, low profile. This is not the kind of movie that you would ever expect to find someone who went on to have a very serious, dramatic career.
Well, there's also a guy that 3-4 years before was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That's
Yeah.
right. He was. He was the
Jefferson.
brother. Yes, he was the football player.
So, yeah.
So
Yeah, they
that was-
Spaghetti right to Camaro.
So Camaro or Firebird?
Camaro.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I'll take your word on it.
Z28.
But no, it's easy to love this movie. It is easy to cheer for this movie. It is easy to be entertained by this movie. And if you're put off by like, oh, well, the dialogue's kind of hammy and you know, blah, you missed the whole point of this movie. This movie has nothing to do with any of that.
But like this scene like hits every trope like perfectly. The training scene that's done with him and his mentor, that whole setup is great. Every montage scene is well executed. The shitty montage music that plays works perfectly, and I love it. And like by comparison, like if you compare like his sad scene after Jackson goes into the hospital with the sad scene from Rocky, where Rocky loses Apollo Creed, where he's driving into this.
Great, Frank. That's just great. Go right ahead. I just hope you don't end up like Jackson or worse. But I'm not going to stand around and watch it.
This scene is much better. I buy Jean-Claude Van Damme's, you know, reflection and especially the shot where he's on the subway, he looks over and he sees Chun-Li in the reflection. He looks over, he's like, oh my God, he's right there. And again, the big bad's great. The other villains or characters in there are awesome.
Yeah.
This is a movie that should have been turned into a video game.
Yes.
And it'd be perfect. You don't have to change a damn thing. You just take the movie and create the characters and their movesets.
What do you call it? I mean, Bloodsport, the video game?
Yeah, you call Bloodsport the fucking video game. What else would you call it?
Kumatai, the video game?
You could do that.
Yes.
To fight to survive! Kumite.
There's something else I want to say about this. The whole sequence where the training montage, where he's the kid and they go into the house and they try to steal the sword, it's so cheesy. And the acting is so bad.
Oh, it's awful.
And it still works. It's still endearing and weirdly so. And then you have like, you know, the kid who obviously doesn't have a French accent for real and he's faking it. He sounds like Pepe Le Pew.
I wasn't going to steal it.
And then it's like the son, and basically, you know, he agrees to, you know, become the sparring partner for his son, and really it's just his son just beating his ass 24/7, and then his son dies tragically, and then he's going to take up the role of the son. He's going to carry on because Tanaka has so much to teach.
That's right.
And it's stupid. It's taken any one of its components, it's terrible. Put it all in a pot. Turn up the heat, let it stew, add some sweet 80s montage music, and you have a stew that is tasty. Tasty. I get it. I get everything about it. I get the love for this. If this movie isn't your jam, check your pulse. There's something went wrong. Just, you know, ask your mom if she dropped you. Just something. If you can't be entertained by this, I got nothing for you on this one.
Me either. I love it. You should rent it. You should buy it. 2 times in one episode. That doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And if you order now, you can actually get the Bloodsport Time Cop 2-pack. I already bought it. Mike will just be getting Bloodsport, I'm sure. Anything else to say about this?
No, man. I think it's time to turn to them scores.
It is time to turn to the scores. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we will reveal who the winner of the Action Bowl 2022 is. You've heard our commentary. We've kept our scores to the very end so that we are just as surprised, or not, as to who the winner is as you guys are. So let's talk scores. Let's talk Conan first.
Okay.
I am all ears.
Okay. Plotting is an 8. While it's on the surface like a basic revenge, there's so many layers that go along with it. We talked about it. I don't need to like beat it up anymore. It's an 8. Style, it's an 8. It's a great epic. Everything you want in an epic's there is represented. There's action, there's boobs, there's score. I mean, there's everything. And again, it took how many years for the Fellowship of the Ring to come along?
It was
to surpass it.
20 years later. It was 18 years.
Yeah. So 18 years to come with something better. And what was the budget on that?
They shot all three of them at the same time, so I don't know for sure, but I know that it was in the several hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
So
a lot of freaking money, a lot of CGI to top it. So there's that. Fun, 10. It's a 10 all day long. There's just never a dull moment from the time it starts, when the narration starts, you're hooked, you're in to the very end.
Well, you're not going to be able to be mad at me about my scores for this one. So for the plot, I gave it a 9. It not only does it work narratively, it's a really solid adaptation of source material that's deep and rich and layered, and they tried to include as much of that as possible in it. And they took the time to develop all those characters, and even the characters that don't have dialogue. You know who they are, you know what they're about, you know who they do. And again, King Osric, Thulsa Doom, even King Osric's daughter. I mean, you get a feel for all these people, and that script is so rich and so textured. For the style, 10. I gave this a 10. The fight scenes, even after the Fellowship of the Ring, I still haven't seen fight scenes that are a sword and sorcery film that are as good as this. And some of those fight scenes, the whole Battle of the Mounds, every hit looks like it hurt. The whole scene when they go into the Mountain of Power and they steal the princess, it's a bloodbath. It is a bloodbath. He uses a giant pot of human stew as a weapon. Thorgrim hits a pillar with a hammer and it collapses, and you're like going, yeah, that's exactly what would happen. And not only that, visually, even 30 years later, no other movie I can think of that looks as good as this film. The costumes, the sets, everything. It's perfect from a visual standpoint. And then we haven't even talked about the music. The soundtrack is a masterpiece.
Yes.
So if you want to know like my complaints about bad music, this is the opposite of that. This movie is so good, and it's partly so good because the soundtrack is so good. And for the fun, it is absolutely a 10. From the very first frame, you hear that first drum hit, and then you see the whole credit sequence is the sword. Not a wasted moment in this film, and the ending is so damn satisfying that here we are 30 years later, people are still going, hey Arnold, you should come back and do King Conan because we want to know how this whole thing wraps up. We'll forgive you for Conan the Destroyer. Just give us more of that. I'll agree to your terms, but only if you bring back John Milius to write it.
Is he still alive?
As far as I know. Oliver Stone is. I don't see why not.
Okay.
Production assistant. Is John Milius still kicking?
I hope so. I'm praying to Crom.
And if you do not listen,
to hell with you.
He is still alive. He's 78 years old.
There you go. George Miller can make Fury Road. John Milius can make Conan the King. So.
Make it happen.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it.
So what's your score on this total, Mike?
26.
And this is actually, I think, the highest score you've given.
No, Predator, I scored... Ooh. We'll know in the wrap-up. It's close. It's
we
really
will know
close.
in the wrap-up. I scored this a 29. To me, this is a near perfect film. This is as close as you can get unless you're doing Gladiator. You know, that's the only movie I can think of that is this kind of a genre and is brutal and is better than this.
No, I'll take this over Gladiator any day of the week.
So I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But
Gladiator's a fine movie, but this is Conan.
So our average score is 27.5 for Conan the Barbarian. Coming up next, our scores for
there's no coming up next. We're rolling right into this motherfucker.
Oh, are we? Do we have time?
Yeah.
I was giving us a cut spot there. All right. So this is your favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme film?
It is.
I adore this film. I still prefer Time Cop, but I do really like this film a lot. So I want to hear your scores.
Okay. Plot is a 6. I mean, it's a basic fight movie, but what's it does have those extra little elements to spice it up a little bit. Style, it's an 8. It's a video game come to life. That should have been a video game. It wasn't. F you, Rockstar, for not doing it. But I mean, it's. I can't think of a movie that's this style of movie that does it better. You know, that's nothing but fights. I mean, we've watched how many action movies now? A shit ton. Yeah. And there's not many that can compete with this in the terms of just fight choreography and things. Yeah. In terms of fight choreography alone, no other movie touches this.
Not that we've seen.
Not that we've seen.
For the Action Bowl anyway. Yeah. But I do hope that somewhere in the annals of film, we're going to find a movie that was directed by Bruno Mattei that is a fight tournament film. But until then, I'm just going to have to wait and be happy with this.
So fun, 10. 10, 10. I will fight you all day long.
You don't need to fight anybody. I'm here in complete agreement. And I'm going to tell you this. I actually scored this a little higher than you did. So for Bloodsport, for the plot, I gave it an 8. And I'll tell you why I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 because, again, they took Frank Duke's bullshit and they actually wrote a coherent script that is believable.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who's playing him. It doesn't matter how bad the performance is. You still, like, at the end of this, back in the 80s when people were watching this, they were like, man, that Frank Dukes, he must be really bad. Well, apparently he's really bad. Yeah. He lied his ass off. So and yet this script is so competently done. People bought that shit. It wasn't until someone started doing some digging around and they were all like, this Frank Dukes thing don't add up. So that Medal of Honor that he won, that's the wrong medal that he's got. And knocking out 56 people in a row, that's not possible. So it took somebody to do some real homework to dispel the magic that this man had woven. But again, that adds to it for me. Yes. But this is also the warning that if you ever see based on a true story, so's Bloodsport.
Well said.
For the style, I gave it a 9 all day long. This movie could have fallen into just a mishmash of fight after fight after fight after fight. It could have gotten boring. It could have slugged down. It never loses momentum.
Never.
It always, you're engaged with everything that is going on. It never outstays its welcome. The fights don't get tedious because there's so many fighting styles. It's brilliantly handled and brilliantly done. And for the fun, it is absolutely a 10. On this one all day long. He will fight you on it. But that means your total score for Bloodsport is
24.
24. And I gave it a 27. So that means that our average score for Bloodsport is a 25.5. So we have our winner. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, Conan has been crowned king as it's all said and done. Jean-Claude Van Damme, you put up one hell of a fight. You consistently delivered. Even with your bad films, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You turned me into a bigger fan of your stuff. I have actually watched more of your movies. So number 2 sucks, but number 2 it is. You did yourself proud. Arnie, this is all yours. As a matter of fact, we're going to go one step further. We are going to get a container. We are going to put all the jars of the Fallen in it, and we're going to mount this to the top of it. You send us a DM on this YouTube channel, I will pay to mail it to you. Until then, we'll hang on to it. It will be featured prominently. Is there anything else you need to say?
No, this is a hard-fought victory. It's closer than I thought it was going to be, this battle, because Conan is a masterpiece. But man, goddamn, if Bloodsport is not f***ing entertaining as all get out. And I knew it was going to be fun and entertaining, but it took watching it again to remember how fun and entertaining it really is.
Absolutely. And that's something you guys should do. These movies that we're reviewing, good, bad, otherwise, go back and watch them. There's some really great stuff that has been lost to streaming services. There's a reason why I still buy physical media, and it's because not everything is on streaming. But, you know, if you have to sail the 7 seas, not that we would ever encourage that, but you do what you need to do. There's some phenomenal stuff out there. Vinegar Syndrome, do us a favor. Get the entire Cynthia Rothrock movie library out on Blu-ray. I want No Retreat, No Surrender 2 so bad.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That movie was so much fun.
It really was. But that is it for the 2022-2023 Season 1 of the Action Bowl. For Mike and me here at Action Bowl Arena, we will see you for Season 2 of the Action Bowl. That'll be coming up later this year. We've got some other fun stuff planned for you, so we will see you then.
Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good. That is good.